Hi, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to do a video about. There's so many things I want to do videos about, actually, but today I thought I would talk about giving people the business. In this political climate and social climate and everything, sometimes people at this time are giving people the business. They're upset with people, and people may not even know why people are upset with them. So I wanted to discuss that. So if you like that that's our topic today, please hit the like and share the video if you think it's going to help somebody. This is the thing is I just shared, I work for pop recovery systems, and I work with people dealing with sometimes food addiction. It's obesity and addictions. That's my specialties of helping people. I myself struggled with weight, and then the way that a good addict deals with weight is to do some drugs, or the way that I did. I'm not saying all good addicts, because not everybody does that. But then did drugs. And then I had really hoped what I really wanted was love. So then enter in love addiction. So I got to figure love addiction out. And my reward for that was getting married and not realizing that I was incompatible with the person that I married, not once, but twice. So I have quite a journey and story to share. And I have experience, and I have strength, and I have hope. I work with many people as a coach, and a lot of them tell me that I help them more than a psychotherapist and psychologist. I'm not saying that those are not good, because I certainly have had a psychotherapist before. And so they're very helpful. I'm just saying that sometimes maybe they don't have the experience. And so maybe that understanding isn't there that a person may receive from someone who does have an addictive tendency to food, drugs, love, sex, alcohol, things like this, and food. And I said food, shopping, all of these things. One of my friends likes it to the whack-a-mole, because when one pops up, another one. I do like that I am able to embrace and acknowledge my addiction, because it helps me to moderate, because I know that if I like something, I need to be mindful. They say vigilant, and I would say vigilant because it is important that we know who we are and everything, and that we don't succumb to trying to find something outside of ourselves, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that's not going to align with us, even financially. That's not going to align with us. So that's my hope here with these videos that I do, to help people be able to be in better alignment, not to make things up and give people the business. So this morning our topic was about dealing with judgment and unsolicited opinions. And at this day and time, many people are dealing with judgment and unsolicited opinions. So I thought I might want to bring some of that here to you, as well as giving people the business over these judgments and unsolicited opinions. Others people's opinions are indeed their opinions, and sometimes I have had to tell myself, especially dealing with narcissists, we all get that opportunity sometimes. And dealing with narcissists, I had to tell myself, I have no thoughts and opinions on this. And what I explained to people this morning was, when people are sharing their thoughts and opinions, and oftentimes we give other people the power, thinking that, and we feel like we have to defend ourselves. Some of this defense comes from a guilty conscience, and we may not even be guilty. This is taking on things that is not even yours. So I wanted to point this out, because not everybody who has a guilty conscience is guilty. They've been trained to have that transference of addiction, whether it's a parent, caregiver, spouse, partner, friends. Because once you start taking it on, you may have a tendency to continue to take this on. I believe that there's a spiritual solution. For me, that's what works, is a spiritual solution to have this psychic change and shift that I needed to have, to not to keep doing things that would self-sabotage myself. And part of that was in codependency, and depending on what other people's thoughts and opinions was of me, and making that define who I was. And I had to learn, what is my business? What's God's business? What's somebody else's business? And when I talk about God, it's whoever you perceive, because I work with people from all different kind of walks of faith, and it doesn't matter. This is the thing. Is what matters is you. I understand getting hung up on faiths and things like this and religious abuse, because I get it. I grew up in a faith that was mostly the patriarchy, and so when I was told I was in the image and likeness, I'm like, but look, I got some breast here. And so oftentimes we think that we're less than other people, and these are perceptions. Sometimes in religion, people automatically feel guilty for things, and they continue to carry guilt around for things that maybe they are not guilty of, or maybe that they're supposed to be forgiven. See, we wouldn't have the word guilt if we wouldn't have the word forgiveness if we didn't have the word guilt. All of us are going to feel some guilt, probably on some level, or not. Maybe if we're narcissists, we're just going to choose not to feel that. We all have a sense of narcissism. I did in my addiction. I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. And it really, what I thought and felt about myself was the one that mattered. Was that I would perceive other people as the way that they behaved, that it had to do with me. That was very self-centered, because the way people behave has to do with themselves. Now, we all carry an energy with us, so I'm not trying to dismiss that, because you have this childlike or childish energy. Most of us want to return back to our childlike state. That's what I talked about this morning. When people are accusing us, or we feel accused of things, and we feel like we have to defend ourselves because of other people's thoughts and opinions and their unsolicited judgments and all of this. Sometimes we've gotten so used to having a guilty conscience that sometimes we're trying to defend ourselves. Even when maybe we're not even being accused. Maybe we're just being asked questions. I've learned to love to be asked questions, but I didn't always love to be asked questions. I considered questions a challenge at one time. Has anybody else considered questions a challenge? I know with many of the people I work with, they have too. That sometimes we think that it's an insinuation that we're not as intelligent as somebody else, or that we're not as, something as somebody else. And that's not what this means. But it's about changing our thoughts and our perspectives to be more in alignment with us, whoever we perceive our source to be in that image and likeness. I'm cool with my image and likeness now, but I've had to grow into loving my image and likeness and knowing that my mind matters, that what I think matters too. That people can disagree with me, and it's okay. I don't have to assassinate their character, and I don't have to feel like my character is assassinated just because somebody doesn't agree with me. This is a part of our maturity and our growing up and our leaving our narcissism behind. I'm not saying that we're all narcissists, but I'm not saying that we're not. I'm saying that as people who are growing up, part of I just try not to do it us and them mentality. You know what I mean? Is that it doesn't make me a better person to accuse somebody of something else. I talked to people this morning about taking our own inventory. When we take our own inventory, we know if we're guilty or not. See, sometimes how we know if we're taking on other people's guilt is we don't even think about it. We just take it on. But the thing is if we think about it and say, because a lot of times people say, well, I think they're mad at me, and they start making things up about why people might be mad at them. But did you do anything offensive? Do you even ask yourself, did I do something offensive? Because sometimes maybe people have other things on their mind than you. I talk about these hard pills to swallow, or the hard truths. Sometimes people aren't thinking about you. They have their own stuff going on, and it's not about you. So see, when we stop and we think about that and quit taking that guilt on, quit taking on other people's opinions. See, because they do get a sense of power when they know that they can control you mentally. So that's why you have to say, I have no thoughts and opinions on this sometimes. So that you're not going back and assassinating their character, even if it's only in your mind. Because what affects your mind affects your body and your soul. So I know for me, back when I was dealing with somebody who used to project some things onto me, is, they would be like trying to get under my skin, trying to poke the bear. I'm not saying people don't try to poke the bear. Sometimes they try to poke the bear. And that's when I had to say to myself, for my own peace of mind and my own freedom, is I have no thoughts and opinions on this. Because when somebody's trying to poke the bear, we have to ask ourselves. We don't have to, But a good thing, is, does this have merit? Does this have meaning? Because sometimes people are just trying to frustrate you and aggravate you and get you to react. And that's the whole thing about giving people the business, is that some people are afraid to react. So it may be more passive aggressive and giving somebody the business over what they think is happening. That stuff I talked about we make up. I had to learn not to make things up myself. So I'm not. Sometimes people are like, Stacey, you trying to call me out? I had to learn, with the help of somebody, not to make things up, because I would make stories up too based on my own low self-esteem, about not feeling important, about not feeling what my mind mattered. Right? So I told people this morning, it's kind of contradictory that we don't have to give people our power, but we do need people. We need humanity. But we need to find our people. And when we're healing, sometimes we may be having these reoccurring people who show up with their thoughts, unsolicited opinions, and thinking that has a power over you. And it may have in the past, but it doesn't have to today. So I wanted to share that with you today, is that you have a choice on whether you're going to give these people this power or not. If somebody's trying to poke you, because sometimes when we are talking about narcissists, people who are not going to go on a self-discovery, who are not going to do their own inventory, they're going to poke you. They're going to gaslight you. And they're going to say things to protect themselves. Because that's why they're doing it, is they're just trying to protect themselves. They have an overactive central nervous system that may react with your central nervous system. Your central nervous system, so that's where healing occurs, is when you don't let this have power over you. That's empowerment, and that's healing. Okay? So saying I don't have a thought or opinion on this, so that you're not under your breath saying, well, this would be, if you do this, or how many of y'all do that? And does it make you feel any better? It didn't make me feel any better. In fact, it still got my central nervous system acted up. So that's why I had to tell myself I have no thoughts and opinions on this. Because really, what somebody was saying to poke me, it didn't matter. And it wasn't who I was. So I was talking about also and knowing ourselves. I mentioned, as I said earlier, I understand some of the things, that in the image and likeness of our source and things, but we've had great way showers. Whether or not, like I said, I work with people in all kinds of belief systems. And the thing is that they're all kind of people. We don't all have to believe alike. We don't have to call ourselves believers. We don't have to do this thing. You can if you want to, but it doesn't make us a better person because we give ourselves a title. That just doesn't do it. But knowing who you are, knowing yourself. I quoted first off Jesus. Jesus, if you consider yourself Christian or a believer, Jesus did not defend himself. And they taunted him to try to get him to defend himself, but he did not, because what Jesus knew is what some of you know if you get honest with yourself, is that once you start defending yourself, you're going to have to keep defending yourself. And that's what's got you in this vicious cycle of your central nervous system being excited. And whether you need to defend yourself or not, sometimes you may feel like you're defending yourself. Sometimes people disagree with me. Sometimes people tell me things that maybe I don't want to hear. And there's different ways we can respond. So at the end of my talk today, I'm trying to keep this at 15, 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes. At the end of my talk today, I talked about 3 solutions to when we are tempted to react. Because I used to teach karate, you see, because when I started working on my addiction, I wasn't sure if what I was doing alone would help me. So I took karate. I got to look in the mirror at myself. I got to realize not everybody was looking at me. I got to realize it wasn't all about me, not just mentally, but physically, and that it was at the same time. What I could do depended on what I set my mind to, because my mind does matter. Your mind matters. How you think and feel about yourself. So I talked about Jesus not defending himself, that he just said, I am. I am. Because the real deal is we are what we say we are. But we don't have to be something somebody else says that we are. You understand? So, then, I think, he didn't defend himself. He came here to teach peace. Peace. And we want peace. We're not feeling like we're at peace when we feel like we're defending ourselves, or that we're always anticipating and standing on guard. Because many of us have trained, our central nervous system is trained to be on guard, to anticipate the needs of others, if nothing else, but also to be on guard. You don't have to be on guard all the time. Once you get confident, this true confidence, okay? So the thing is whether you believe in Jesus or whether you believe more in philosophy, I like it all, So Socrates, one of them, like Calvinism, they say, my son's name was Calvin, but they say, to know yourself is to know God, And I do believe that is our consciousness. I believe God, for me, is consciousness. I know in my addiction I was not consciousness. I would take things on that wasn't mine to take on. I would do things that wasn't mine, out of my consciousness. I didn't even understand my guilty conscience. I would certainly create some scenarios to have a guilty conscience. So when I did my own inventory, I got to see, you're a piece of work, So that's what I mean about doing our own inventory, because a lot of the things that we project onto other people we have within ourselves. We just may have an excuse for it. Whatever. Okay? I'm not saying that the excuses don't matter. I'm saying we need to work through the excuses that we've built up that limit us and what we want and desire for ourselves, because we can go from limited to unlimited. And that's like one of the things that sometimes people will want to keep you in a limited way when they're in your ear trying to talk you down and say that make you, if you feel a certain way because somebody's put you in this box. You don't have to be in that box. You can get out, darling, anytime you want. So it's about knowing yourself. So I'm going to read you something I wrote about Socrates. Socrates stated, "Know thyself." He emphasized self-awareness and the pursuit of knowledge about one's own nature, virtues, and vices. See, the thing is when we die, this is what I keep explaining, is when we die, most people are going to say, their thoughts and opinions really mattered. It's going to be how you treated people. And that doesn't, whether you're a believer, Christian, or this or that, whatever you title yourself, what matters is how you treat people and how you allow others to treat you, because we do teach people how to treat us. So if you're taking on guilt, you're training people that you're going to take on that guilt. The thing is about not taking on the guilt. What also I said in my meeting this morning is I wanted to make it clear that not taking guilt doesn't mean we have to assassinate another person's character. This is why I had to tell myself I have no thoughts and opinions on this, because when I would feel attacked with somebody saying something that was totally not true about me, just to get under my skin, then I would have to say I have no thoughts and opinions about this, because I would naturally, as a human being, want to defend, would want to, persecute that person because they were making me feel unhappy with what they were saying, and I didn't feel like it had any merit, and I didn't feel like it had any matter. It didn't matter, and it had no merit. They were just talking. So we have to ask ourselves, what I said was that changing our consciousness and our energy helps us to develop a better conscience, to give up that guilty conscience, because we're not guilty. Half the stuff you think that people are mad at you for, you've not even done. Some stuff maybe you did, and that's about taking our own inventory, So when we can then stand in our courage and confidence like Jesus, saying I am, or Socrates, to know ourself, And this doesn't have to be done with aggression. We don't have to be offended, but we can, or not. It's a choice is yours, you see. So I'm going to give you 3 things, just like I did in our Transformation Academy this morning. I encourage you, if you're on a weight loss journey or what have you, to join this POPS Transformation Academy. If you want, you can reach out to me for more information, because people are finally getting real results, getting to know themselves instead of fit themselves into a box or a mold that's made by somebody else. Okay? So, when I took karate, I became obsessive about karate. I took karate, I taught karate, and then I ended up owning the karate studio, because my mind matters. And what I set my mind to, just like you can do. It's about claiming your mind. So when I taught the tiny tigers and the little dragons, the kids, and some of us are working on our inner children right now so that we can be those free spirits, free childlike spirits that feel invincible, that aren't full of that fear. We need to be able to merge our adult and our child together to live in peace and freedom. Okay, so 1, I taught the kids to take 10 deep breaths. I usually breathe with our clients 5 times, just to establish that presence. Because right now, if you're watching me right now, everything is fine and divine. Sometimes we have dreams, goals, and visions of moving somewhere, of doing something else, or what have you. And right now, in this moment, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm where I want to be. And I bet you are too. Or if you're not, you'll figure out how to get there once you get control of your own mind. How we do that is getting oxygen to our mind. So we did 10 deep breaths, because kids tend to be reactive, right? So when I taught those tiny tigers and the little dragons, I was teaching them to take 10 deep breaths before they react, so that they can respond and that they can be okay in the moment and not have their central nervous system. Because it's true that as kids, we learn to get that overactive central nervous system. Okay? So taking 10 deep breaths so that you can get control of your central nervous system and your reactive tendencies, so you don't self-sabotage. Okay? 2, ask yourself, when somebody's saying things that's not, you feel like they're poking the bear, it's a continued fight, you feel like you constantly have to defend yourself, ask yourself, does it have merit or matter? Because I bet you 8 times out of 10, it doesn't even have merit or matter. But we're so used to defending ourselves that we don't think to ask ourselves that. Does this have merit or matter? Do I need to concern myself and give energy to this? 3 is smile and say, I disagree. Because you can disagree with somebody without persecuting them, without having to get a team or a case. You can disagree. You can say, I disagree. You can discuss it in an adult tone, maybe even stating, I can see how you would think that. I am so glad for myself, and I hope that you get to experience this too, that we don't have to get locked and loaded on these ideas and these thoughts. Is that, thank goodness, I've been able to change my mind about some things, and that I haven't had to defend everything. That I can see how some people could think a certain way. It doesn't mean it's going to change my mind, because I have control of my mind, and my mind matters, and your mind matters too. So this is the thing, is that when you disagree with people without assassinating their character, that is classy. So keep it classy, because if you start defending yourself, that's defensiveness, and we tend to assassinate a character. We're going to feel better in ourselves and our souls if we don't assassinate a character. Sometimes people are going to get mad at you, and they're not going to know how to express themselves. They may give you the business. And until they're ready to talk to you about their feelings, and if they're not talking to you about their feelings, they're already still questioning, are these feelings valid or not? It's not up to you to draw it out of people, to start taking on things that you don't know. It's up to you to just allow them to be and not persecute them for what they're unable to say. Because when we are, the last things, that we want people to say about us, or that I want people to say about me, is that I was kind. I did not hurt anybody intentionally. We all hurt people intentionally or unintentionally. That's what I had to learn in my grief, is that everyone will hurt us whether they intend to or not. I've had to learn to use my big girl words, and when I'm sadly disappointed, to be able to see if it's somebody else's business, if it's something that they did or something that I felt and I thought that I hadn't healed yet, that I needed to work on. Maybe I need to separate myself from that person and say, well, it hurt my feelings. This is a game changer. This is a deal breaker. This is unacceptable. I don't know what your case is, but you don't have to build a case against other people or yourself. It's just about aligning yourself with yourself, your source, and your soul, whoever you perceive that to be. Be kind, because that's what we want to say about each other, right? That's what I think most people are going to say about me, is that I was kind. They're not going to care about my thoughts and opinions, because my thoughts and opinions may change, and that's okay. And it's okay too for you to change it. You don't have to defend it, and you don't have to change it. Know yourself and be true to yourself. Then you'll honor yourself and others. So that's all I got, and I hope that it was helpful, and I hope you were able to watch the whole thing. Apologies for it being a little longer than I expected. Thank you so much for watching. It's my goal just to be the change I want to see, and for you to feel comfortable doing that too. Thanks. Bye.